Okay, let us start a new concept, cursors in SQL. This is a concept from PLSQL. In PLSQL, there will be stored procedures, functions, just like in C language. You wrote functions in C language. Similar to that, you can write functions or stored procedures in SQL also. Of course, it is not SQL; it is PLSQL. Within these stored procedures are functions, so we can create variables, we can write loops, we can write if else, and we can write some set of statements in the sense set of queries, and those queries will be executed whenever you call the stored procedure or function. In real time, most of the times they use stored procedure or functions. That's nothing but everything will be in the function. You just call the function. If you want to pass any value, pass the value and call the function or the stored procedure and get the work done. Okay, so that's what PLSQL. In that PLSQL, this cursors is one concept. Okay, cursor is a pointer. Just like in Notepad, there will be one blinking spot on line indicating over there you can type. From there, that is the point where you can perform an operation, either inserting or deleting or typing, whatever it is. Similarly, in the database, in the result also, there will be some cursors. Of course, there are two types of cursors. One is implicit cursor and one is explicit cursor. Implicit, by default, it will be available. It will not be created by the user. Okay, it will be in the background. You can make use of some variables, and you can make use of that implicit cursor by means of a few attributes or variables in PLSQL. Whereas when you look at explicit cursor, you can create that explicit cursor. User can create an explicit cursor and he can manipulate the explicit cursor however he wants. Okay. So when you execute a select query, that select query can be a big table, and in the table there can be multiple rows, and cursor will point one row. From that row, you perform. I mean, at that row you perform the operation, whatever you want. However you want to get the data, you get the data and manipulate the data. Okay, so let us go through the slides in this cursors in SQL. Okay, the first point. Generally, what happens is, suppose in Oracle is a DBMS. In Oracle, there will be context area. Context area. What is context area? It is a memory area which is used by Oracle in order to process an SQL statement. Okay, you are executing an SQL statement. For that SQL statement, what and all things are required, all those things should be placed inside a memory. And that memory is referred as context. Okay, so that's what Oracle creates a memory area called context area for processing an SQL statement, which contains all the information needed for processing the statement. Okay, now what is this cursor? Cursor is just like a pointer to this context area. Okay, it is a pointer. And then next point, it holds the rows, otherwise the active set returned by an SQL statement. In a table, there can be multiple rows, but in the result, we see only few rows. We call that one as active set. Okay, that will be in hold of this cursor. Okay, that result. Okay, now you perform whatever operations on that result by using the cursor. That's what the point here. Okay, now cursor can you can name a cursor. You can give a name to the cursor. Okay, that's what this point, and use that name in the program, PLSQL program. Okay, generally what happens is we process one row at a time, not entire table at a time. Only one row. That's it. Okay, pointer will point the first row. You perform the operations, and it will go to the second row, perform those operations, some operations, and go to the third row. It will be like that. Okay, so generally one row it will point and process one row at a time. Okay, there will be two types of cursors. One is implicit cursor and the other one is explicit cursor. Okay, now let us go through about, discuss about implicit cursors. These are automatically created. Okay, and when there is no explicit cursor, okay, we can make use of this implicit cursors. Implicit cursors are automatically created by Oracle. Whenever SQL statement is executed, so for every execution of SQL statement, there will be a cursor in the background. Otherwise, there will be a cursor which will not be visible to us, but they will use a cursor. Okay. If you create an explicit cursor, then this won't come. Okay. So when there is no explicit cursor for the statement, then there will be an implicit cursor, which is automatically created. Okay. For every SQL statement cursor, there will be SQL statement execution. There will be a cursor. Okay. And of course, if you want to control implicit cursor, it is not possible. You cannot control, you cannot refer that implicit cursor, you cannot access that implicit cursor. Okay. Of course, there will be some attributes which you can use while otherwise, in order to manipulate, in order to perform some operations with implicit cursors. First, the attributes are found. First one is found. Okay, it returns true or false. When it returns true, if the DML statements or DQL statement perform some operations like if you perform insert, update, and delete, those rows will be, some rows will be affected. Insert, one new row has come. Update, existing in one row, existing data is replaced, so one row is affected, or 5 rows are affected, like that. Delete, one row you can delete, or 5 rows you can delete, or entire table data you can delete. So there will be some rows affected. So if there are any rows affected, then found will be true. If you get any data from the database, from a table, or generally from a database, then found will be true. Otherwise, found will return false. So you use this attribute like a variable and identify whether any row is affected by DML queries or whether you got any result from select query. Okay. In programming, we use this. Not only here in Oracle, in every place, in JDBC, in Java, JDBC also, we do the same operation. We'll check whether there are rows returned by the select query or not. If those are returned, then only you perform some operation. Okay. So that is what found and not found, and finding out whether it is open or closed, and how many rows are affected, row count. Those are the attributes. Found, not found, is open. All the three will return either true or false. Okay. But row count will give number of rows affected, otherwise number of rows returned by the select query. Let us go through a small example for implicit cursor. For suppose we have customers table. Select a star from customers will give this table. Okay, with these attributes: ID, name, age, address, and salary. 2,000, 1,500, 2,000, 6,500, 8,500, 4,500. Okay, right. Now, this is a PL/SQL stored processor. PL/SQL stored processor, and of course, you should know PL/SQL in order to understand this. But I will explain. If you want to write anything like this, you should know PL/SQL. But to understand the cursors concept, I will explain this code. Okay, so it will not be a problem for you. And PL/SQL is not universal. Okay, it is a little bit advanced concept. Now, just remember functions concept in C language. That's it. Apart from that, nothing is there. Here some syntactical variations and database related concepts will come. That's it. Okay. So in C language, functions must be declared by variables, right? Similarly, here also declare section will be there. In declaration section, you have to declare the variables. And you declare the variables based upon the data types of that particular DBMS. For suppose Oracle, or for suppose MySQL. In MySQL, for suppose number is one data type. Okay, for the data type, you are creating a variable with the name total rows. That's it, declaration. Not only one variable, how many variables you want, those many variables you can declare. And the execution statements will begin with begin keyword, okay, and end with end keyword. Okay, begin and end. And then we are writing a query, that's it. Which query? It is the select. What it is doing, it is updating all the customers by adding 500 to everybody. By adding 500 to everybody. Okay. So when you execute this query, so what will happen? 2000 will become 2500. 1500 will become 2000. Okay. So I think you understood that concept, right? Now the points in implicit cursor. We are finding out whether there is any row affected or not. If there are no rows not found, SQL means it will refer the query just now executed. Percentage not found means for that particular query, not found attribute will be applied, and if none of the rows are affected, then not found will be true. If it is true, we are it should print like this: no customer selected. DBMS output dot put line is just like printf in C language. Okay, this is in DBMS we are supposed to write like this: DBMS underscore output dot put line, and pass the string in single quotes, and that's it. That will be displayed when no rows are selected. But here rows will be selected. I mean rows are affected, so it will be false. So similarly, in C language we have else if. Here also we have else ELSIF. It is not ELSCIF. It is ELSIF. Else if. Okay, if this is not true, then it will come to SQL form. If it is true, then we are getting the row count into total rows, into the variable total rows, and we are printing total rows is OR. This is OR operation. That's nothing but we are appending. That's it. Apart from that, so total rows is appended with customers selected. So it is printing like this: 6 customers selected. What is 6? That is row count, number of rows affected. How many rows are there? There are 6 rows. 6 rows. So all the 6 rows are affected. So that's what we got here. So when you are executing a normal update query, 6 customers selected will not be displayed. Okay, that is happened only in PLSK. Okay, with the help of cursors concept. Okay, so this is about implicit cursors. You just remember functions concept in C language. The same kind of thing is happening here, but some syntactical variations. But in the in the function in the stored procedure, we will be writing the statements from SQL, but not like C language. That's the difference. Okay, concept is same. So that is about implicit cursors. And then next one is explicit cursor. The first point is it is programmer defined. You can define your own cursor. You can name your own cursor, and it will be pointing the context area. And of course, you have to create or specify a cursor in the declaration section of the PLSQL block. And of course, it is created on a selected state. We got some result. Okay, for you have to read that result in a different manner into your program. Okay, so at the time you can make use of it. At the time you can see if you just see the complete result, no need of cursor. But sometimes your program should get into the result and grab the things whatever you want from the result. Okay, and perform some other operations. For that purpose, you can make use of these explicit cursors. Apart from that, nothing is. Okay, and the syntax. What is the syntax? Cursor is a keyword, right? Cursor, then name of the cursor. It is your wish. Cursor name is your wish. Use is a keyword, and then followed by select a statement. So explicit cursors are used with select statement. Select statement will get some data from the database, and for that result, you can make use of cursor and perform the operations whatever you want. Okay. So how to make use of this explicit cursors? Steps. First, you declare. Now to initialize the memory, open the cursor, close the cursor. In the middle of opening and closing, perform the operations. What kind of operation? Generally, you fetch some data from the result. That's it. Okay, so create or give a name to the cursor. Always declare the cursor. Then open the cursor. Perform the operations like fetching. Close the cursor. Closing is nothing but releasing the allocated memory. Okay. This is from this example is from tutorials point. Fine. Now, how to declare a cursor? Nothing is there. Just now in the previous slide we have seen cursor keyword, then name of the cursor. You can give any name. For suppose we are giving C and so customers. Is a keyword followed by select query. Here we are executing a select query. Select ID, name, address. ID, name, and address from the table customers. Customers is a table. From is a keyword. ID, name, address are column names. Select is a key. Okay. So that is a cursor. So let us look at this example and close this session. Now, example is in PLSQL. There is a stored procedure. Stored procedure will not return a value, whereas function will return. That is in PLSQL. Okay. So here we are not returning any value. Okay. So we will just simply call the stored procedure. Nothing is there. We declare a cursor in declaration section. So declare is the keyword to specify declaration section. And here along with cursor, this is a cursor. Okay, just now we discussed about this, how to create. Okay, that is under declare section. Along with cursor, C underscore customers, there are C underscore ID, C underscore name, C underscore address. Those are variables. And those variables are having the data type of the columns in the table customers. Customers.id, customers is a table. .id is the column name. ID is the column name. The data type of customers.id is obtained here, and that is the data type for CID. Okay, similarly, customer table, customers table, name column data type is data type of C name. Customers table address column data type is data type of C address. Now begin the executable statements. We have seen that first we have to, this is the first step, declare the cursor, then open the cursor and perform the operations. Of course, here a loop can be written like this. Okay, so loop and loop. In the middle, you write the statements, and those statements will be executed until you exit it. Until you exit it. Okay, so we are writing exit condition here. What it is? Exit when customers not found. Means what one table will be returned by the select query. Select ID, name, address from customers. For suppose there are 6 rows in that, and cursor will point the first row. Okay. Now what we are doing over here is, before writing that exit statement, we are writing fetch. Fetch get C underscore customers into C underscore customers means that particular cursor. Okay. Into CID, CNAME, C address. That's nothing but this query will return ID, name, and address of each customers. That is one row. In one row, 3 columns are there, 3 values are there. Those 3 values will be placed inside 3 different variables, 1, 2, and 3. That's it. And those values will be printed like this: CID, some space, name, some space, address. Here 2 pipes are nothing but OR symbol. We call them as OR. So those will concatenate string with the value in the variable. String with this is a space. This is a space. Okay. So ID space, name space, address. Like that, it will be printed, and it will go back and loop and fetch the next row. Fetch the next row. So what happens? I suppose this is the result of the select query, and these are multiple rows in the select query result, and cursor C will point the first row. Now by using fetch, we get the values from the cursor into the variables. Afterwards, the cursor will point to the second row. Then fetch everything, go to the third row. Then fetch everything, go to the fourth row. It will be keep on going until there is no more rows to read. So not found. See, the pointer will come to the last point at this location. Here no row. So not found will give true. When not found is true, stop it. So exit when not found, and it will come out of the loop. And at the end, this is the last step. Okay, this is the fourth step. In fact, here third step is this one, fetching. Fourth step is closing. Finally, we end that particular stored procedure. In pure SQL, at the end, you are supposed to write this slash, so that the program will get ended. Okay, so that is what explicit cursor. We declared a cursor in declaration section. We fetch the data from the cursor row wise until row is not found by using the variables. The variables are attributes given to us, like found, not found, row count, all those things you can make use and perform some operations. Here simply we are printing, that's it. Not only printing, you can do so many other operations in real time. Finally, we close the cursor. Of course, generally we use cursors in a loop because in a result there can be multiple tables. Okay, only one row will be referred by cursor at one time. So in order to refer all the rows, in order to read all the rows, in order to perform some operation on all the rows, you are supposed to use a loop. That's why we have used a loop. So this is about cursors. Okay, with this I'm concluding the cursors concept.